July the 15th, 2021. Guys, you're looking at what's called a halo CME. This occurred on the 13th, and it was a far side event, which makes it very unusual because the high energy particles were picked up here on Earth. Now, again, you're looking at Earth-facing images, and the sun is in the center. This is a coronal mass ejection, and it's from the sunspot that gave us the first X flare just before it turned to the far side of the sun. Now, within a week, it's going to be back facing us here on the planet. But what's unusual about this coronal mass ejection, when the satellites first picked it up, they thought it was Earth-facing, and the reason is because the energized particles of the strongest magnitude, up to 100 mega electron volts, were picked up here on our planet. And this shouldn't have happened, but it just tells you the intensity. They're calling it a planetary or global shock wave, and we're going to look at the charts on that. But I say it was an interplanetary shock wave because Mars and Venus and Mercury were also involved in this. But this is a different look, same satellite, different camera, LASCO C2. Now, right there, you see that on the 13th? We'll play it back through. That is a massive coronal mass ejection. It's a full halo because you see it all the way around the sun. And you see the flashes of the energized particles hitting the camera and going into shutdown mode. But right here on the 13th, full halo. It was actually two CMEs, one to the right. You see that circle, bottom right, and then the full halo. But the sun is waking up, and this looks like it's going to be a violent season, guys. This is very strong, just coming out of solar minimum. But it says that when they first saw the explosion, there was a moment of excitement. This is from space weather forecasters. They were going to put out the aurora alerts and things like that. It said it appeared to be heading directly towards Earth. However, data from NASA's Stereo A spacecraft indicated otherwise. In fact, the CME was headed directly away from us, called the far side event. The interesting part, although the explosion occurred on the far side of the sun, it still peppered Earth with high-energy particles. It seems almost impossible, but it did. The energetic relativistic nuclei and electron detector aboard SOHO, called ERNIE, recorded a surge in hard radiation not long after the CME appeared. Hard radiation is in this green chart, or the green line in this chart. It's from 51 to 100 mega electron volts if you look at it. Twice this occurred on July 3rd with the X flare, which if you look back in our videos, I think I got first X flare of this solar cycle. And then again, just day before yesterday on July 13th. Both times, this was the particle reading from the CME, but the green line is called the hard radiation, and that's what you get on the front end of a very powerful CME. Again, it's going to be Earth turning within a week. It says, how did the radiation reach our planet? Again, here's your chart. Notice green line is your strongest, and the peaks were there. And again, on the 13th. It says, Rami Vainio, a professor of space physics at the University of Turku in Finland, who works with ERNIE data, says it's not possible to answer that question definitely without a detailed analysis involving multiple spacecraft. However, she speculates that the liftoff of the CME may have created a global shock wave on the far side of the sun. Particles spilling over the edge may have spiraled towards our planet, possibly caught up in the solar wind, which has increased now. Finally, that CME, the solar wind speed event has hit it again up in the 400s, not the 600s. We'll keep an eye on it. It says of particular interest are the green data points in the plot above. These are the most energetic protons ERNIE can detect. An uptick in green after the CME indicates unusually hard radiation, the kind produced in the leading edge of a hard-charging CME. The source of the blast may have been the same sunspot, AR 2838, that produced the first X flare of solar cycle 25 on July 3rd. That sunspot is currently transiting the far side of the sun, approximately where the CME came from. Within the next week, AR 2838 is expected to return, and then maybe the real fun begins. Now, we talked about Stereo A picked up this image, and it gives you a different angle. It's behind Earth in its orbit, so you get more of an angle to the left of the sun. Again, this is just today, what you're looking at. You're already seeing explosions. But on the 13th, I can't back this camera up, but on the 13th, guys, this was it indicated that it was not Earth-facing. It was blowing back out the backside. Now, it's not that far behind us in orbit, but enough to give them a direction, a visible direction, according to Stereo A. If you look at the chart, this is today. Notice your timestamp at the top. The Earth is in the green dot. The sun is in the center. Stereo A is in this red dot, behind Earth, in Earth's orbit. Now, so it got a different angle than the Earth did, and it showed that CME, again, being out the backside of the sun, blowing out that side, and being that far side of vent, just to kind of give you an idea of what we're talking about. Guys, there's a video I did years ago. It's no longer up. But, and I'm pointing out that Mercury, Venus, and Mars are inside this inner solar system. So when they said it was a global shock wave, I say it's an interplanetary shock wave because they were much closer to the sun and on the side of the CME. But in the 1400s, there was a nation about to overtake the entire planet, the largest navy that Earth had ever seen that we know of. And it was taken out by a comet. It hit down south of Australia, New Zealand, down through that area. Shock waves were felt all the way to Easter Island. It was probably just parts of the comet. But the scientists in that day all over Asia had been for months tracking this object, this fire in the sky. And when it hit the ocean behind the fleets, they were cast 500 and 600 feet up the cliffs, into caves, and smashed and burned. And the end of the world takeover happened at that point. Now, in Malachi, again, it talks about the healing wings of Shemesh. And we look at the situation now on our planet. It seems hopeless in many ways, you know, with what's occurring from every angle. But there's always a way out. And I think Revelation talks about the angel pouring out that vial upon the sun. And in Malachi, the healing wings of the sun. And the kingdom of the beast going into darkness. Things like that. So what happens? You got the healing wings again of the sun. And I think that has everything to do with things from the Schumann resonance to your normal body rhythms, your mental, the wavelengths, everything that's occurring. I've called it the communication between God and man many times. And that when you've got neural net satellites and Starlink satellites, Neuralink information everywhere, makes you wonder, is it an attempt to block the God frequency? Either way, it can be handled. And we're getting close to those days. If something doesn't happen, guys, all will be lost. No flesh will be saved if things go according to the plan. But this is going to be very interesting the next few weeks. This solar cycle is going to be very interesting too. But we're watching it, guys. Again, good morning. Get up, get some coffee. It's almost 6 a.m. here in central Mississippi. Heads up, be safe.